Right.
Brilliant.
Do you want me to crack on, Mai, or are you going to do
Yeah.
some?
No, bro, you crack on. This
Yeah.
is
Okay.
your presentation. So thank you, Ellie. Thank you very
Brilliant.
much.
As usual, I don't do PowerPoint presentations. I just talk at
Mm-hmm.
people. So that's what I'm going to do. It's great to see so many people here. Thank you for taking the time out. I just wanted to thank anybody in the room that was involved in the kind of co-design of this funding programme, which feels like a lifetime ago now, doesn't it? I hope it's kind of presented itself in the ways that you felt you wanted when we had that initial meeting about what the funding programme should look like. And I just wanted to remind everybody that now is the time to feed back on what your experience has been. So I'm sure you will all have had an email from Tama or from your capacity building officer inviting you to complete that survey, that feedback form, or to have a conversation about your experiences. And that covers obviously your experience of the support you've received from your capacity building officer, but it does have some questions about the funding programme as well. Please be honest. You can complete the form anonymously, I believe, if you want to, if you feel that helps you to be more honest. So please take that option if that's good for you. We want to know what your experience has been like, no holds barred, and what we can improve or what you would like to see next time. For those of you that don't know, we're coming into year 3 of what is currently a 3-year funded project, and we want to apply to extend it for another 3 years. So it's a really good time for us to understand what you might want a new funding programme to look like. If you want a new funding programme, of course, the next 3 years of the project doesn't have to involve a funding programme. It could involve more support from CAN, more capacity building support. If you do want to see another funding programme, obviously we want to know if you want that to look the same, if you want that to look different. Do you want more capacity building grants? Do you want different types of grants, different size grants, different ways to apply? Now's the time to give us all that feedback. So it's just a reminder to do that if you haven't already. And we will listen to that feedback, and I'm sure there'll be opportunities to kind of discuss things face to face as well, as we kind of, if we're lucky enough to get that extended 3 years. So just a reminder there, really. Just wanted to say thank you to our panel members as well. It's been really, really interesting to put together the decision panel. We had lots of interest, and not everybody that was interested in taking part has been able to have that opportunity. So apologies if that's you. But if we do get an extended 3 years, hopefully that will obviously expand our ability to offer you that opportunity to sit on the decision panel. It's important to say that the decision panel have really scrutinised the applications. They've really looked at them really carefully and given lots of what we hope has been helpful feedback, as well as the kind of governance feedback. Many of you had sort of different ideas and things that you could consider, which came from our panel members. So hopefully that was helpful. At the moment, so far, they've been in a position where we have very close to a 100% success rate on the funding programme. And I'm here to tell you that has never happened to me in 10 years at Dorset Community Foundation, and it doesn't happen to other funders either. So it's been a real joy for me to see that. So pretty much everybody that has applied has been able to receive some funding, which is just amazing. And well done to you, well done to your capacity building officers for providing applications that were fundable. So that's great. But where we are now, coming into this final year, these final few rounds of funding, is that the money is running out, which inevitably that's how it goes. So it's just important to manage expectations that the panel are going to have a much tougher job in this next year, and they will have to say yes to some and no to other applicants, which actually is will give people a more realistic feeling of what applying for funding usually looks like. So our success rate is normally about 1 in 4 or 1 in 5. Other funders, it's far worse than that. We're still pretty good at DCF. So we just wanted to let everybody know that, because it is going to be tough for those people that aren't successful. It's going to be tough for the panel as well. So I guess my job is to help you to maximise your chances of being selected. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. I think the important thing is for you at the moment, those of you that have received a grant already, is just to spend it really well. Because for some of you that may, unless we get the 3-year extension, that may be the only grant you receive from this fund. So just spend it really well. Try and spend it wisely, in ways that will really help to develop your organisation. Do talk to me if things have developed to a stage where actually you want to spend the money in a slightly different way. Please don't feel absolutely constrained by what you put in your application. We can be flexible. We can't do completely different things, but we can certainly be flexible if actually things have changed or budgets have changed. So spend the grant well, talk to us if you need to, and really, use that capacity building grant to support your organisation. Goes without saying that you'll be continuing to work with your capacity building officers, and lots of groups have been saying to us that actually it's the work with your CBOs that has made the biggest difference, and the grant has almost been a kind of bonus and an addition to that, which is really great to hear, because that was our intention. You'll all be aware now, hopefully, that if you received a grant, you do need to report to us on how you spent that money and the difference it made to you, and kind of how things have gone. So that's the other thing to think about, is how you're going to do that report. So far, groups that have reported have used the Word document, and that seems to be quite straightforward, quite a good option. But you can also, if you want to, you could send us a video where you kind of verbally explain what's happened and the responses to those few questions that we have. We did also say that you can ask me to come and visit your organisation, and then we can talk face to face. I'm still happy to do that for some groups. If I get a flood of requests, I will have to manage my capacity, and I might not be able to do that for everyone, but it is still an offer on the table. The other thing, sorry to say, I've got some notes here, that's why I'm looking down. The other thing to just remind you of is that I think pretty much everybody had some governance recommendations from us. So because we're all working together to try and support you to grow and to strengthen, if we noticed something that we thought, oh, that could just be improved, it might have been something in one of your policies, it might have been the wording in your constitution, any of those kind of governance recommendations, do make sure that you work on those, take them back to your capacity building officers and just address those things. Because if you apply again to the fund, the panel will absolutely expect that you have taken some action on that governance advice. It was given to help you and to strengthen you. So do kind of make sure that you look at that at some point if you haven't already. Because if you send that policy in again and it hasn't changed at all, and we advised you there was something that needed improvement, obviously that might affect your chances of being selected for a second grant. So just be careful around those governance recommendations as well. And then what we're saying as we come into this last year, we know that a lot of you have had a grant already, will be anticipating wanting to apply again, which is fine, to try and help the workload on the panel and to try and kind of manage expectations of perhaps not being able to fund everybody. What we're saying is that you need to wait a year before you apply again, so that it's 12 months between receiving grants. So obviously you should have fully spent the money that was given to you, and sent us a report in however you want us to send the report, and then it should be a full year before you are making that second application. So for example, so if you had your grant in July, after that July panel, you would need to wait for the next round of funding, which finishes at the end of June, where the grants again would be going out in July, so that there's a 12-month gap. I hope that makes sense. So if you had a grant in July, you won't be awarded one until a minimum of the following July. It's also worth saying, actually, if I know some of you have had various different delays for different reasons in spending the grant that we awarded, as well as talking to me about any changes you might need to make in how you spend the grants. Do also raise if you need more time. So we gave you a year to spend the grant. Some groups are spending it in a slightly less time, which is fine, but you still need to wait the 12 months before you apply again. But if actually you think you might struggle to spend the money in the 12 months since it was awarded, please don't do a rush job. We'd much rather you just had a conversation with us. And if you need a bit longer to spend the money because you had a delay of any kind, you know, usually that's absolutely fine. And that goes for any of our funding programs, unless we have published a kind of set strict deadline, which is unusual for us. You know, just talk to us if you need another couple of months, and that will help you to do a better job or to you know, have better outcomes, then that's what we want to see. So do talk to me as well if you want an extension. So essentially that's the rule. So if you've had a grant already, spend it well, do your governance advice, send us a report, and then you need to wait that 12 months before you would be considered for a new grant. Hopefully that makes sense. Other than that, the fund guidance is essentially still the same. So if there are any groups in the room that haven't received a grant yet, then you can still apply in the current round. So we have these quarterly rounds of funding. So at the moment, if you apply by the end of March, then we'll have a decision panel in April. And we've said that for this round, for the panel in April, we're happy to still look at groups who haven't yet applied. And that's absolutely fine. Going forward after this panel, we're only going to consider applications from groups that had already received a grant. Again, just to manage the fact that the pot of money is really shrinking now. But hopefully if we get this 3-year extension from the lottery, then hopefully we'd be in a position to open again to newer groups. We'll see how that goes. So yeah, generally speaking, the fund guidance is the same. You can still apply in a way of your choosing. So you can apply through our online system. You can apply in a Word document form. You can apply if you want to create a video, and you can also have a funding conversation with me, either in a coffee shop somewhere or over Teams, and we'll just have a conversation and I'll make sure we've got all the information and record that for the panel. The grants we're offering are still up to £3,000. They are still what we call capacity building grants. So these are grants that we're trying to support your organisation to develop and become stronger. So it's not a traditional project grant fund. So we can't give you a grant to run activities with your beneficiaries, but what we can give you a grant for is things that strengthen your overall organisation. So it might be training for your trustees or your committee members. It might be kind of startup costs if you're a newer organisation. We've done kind of small capital costs like laptops and other bits of capital funding that groups feel they need. It can be costs to build a website. I'm trying to think of the common ones we've had, really. We're still very open to consultation work. So for those of you that have already had a grant, perhaps for those initial startup costs, it's worth thinking about whether you can use a grant to really help you to do any kind of sort of review with your beneficiaries. Even groups that are really well established will often go back out to their members, to their participants, and say, you know, are we still delivering a service that is relevant? Is the service running on the right time of day or the right day of the week? You know, how can we improve what we're offering? Have your needs changed? Are there new issues that you're experiencing that we could help you with? You know, it's always really worth doing these things, but of course, doing a real consultation like that with your community, you know, does take time and resources. So you can think about using a grant to help you with that type of community consultation, whether that's bringing somebody external in or doing it yourself and covering the cost of your time. If you need to meet with your beneficiaries in a different place and there's a cost to hiring that place, all of those different things that come with doing a community consultation. That is one way you can use a grant, and it might be really relevant to those of you that are still within those first few years of delivering a service. It's really good practice just to take a step back and think, actually, let's just make sure we're getting this right. Similar to the survey that Mayu has just sent you all, to make sure that we're getting it right for you for this project. You know, it's kind of good practice to do that. So yeah, you could think about using a grant for that type of thing. We would see that as capacity building because it's improving your knowledge and your awareness of your community and helping you to kind of make sure that you're doing the best job you can for the future. So anything else I need to say on, I'm just going to get my fund guidance up. I think that's everything really. Just obviously work with your capacity building officer as always on your application. Make sure it is a request for a capacity building grant, so something that will support you in the long term, you know, not just for the next couple of months. I'm always available, so I would always say speak to your capacity building officer first. They're now really familiar with the fund and with the types of things we can support. But if you're not sure or you want to have a conversation with me direct as well, that's absolutely fine. Sometimes groups just want to double check that something will be relevant and eligible, and that's absolutely fine. What you may need to be careful of, those of you that are asking for a second grant at some point in the next year, is that although for many of you we did what we call kind of startup costs, quite a lot of groups were still very new and needing those startup costs, and that was okay. But what we can't do is commit to paying your ongoing costs as an organisation. So if we paid, trying to think of an example, if we paid you to set up a website, your first website, that's a really good example. But what we can't do is pay those website domain costs in your next grant, because that's an ongoing cost. So something like your insurance that you pay every year, your website domain costs you pay every year, your email hosting costs are something you pay every year. Any of those ongoing costs, that's not really what this fund is about. This fund is about doing something different that strengthens your organisation in the long term. Just paying your next 12 months of insurance costs is not really developing you or supporting your overall strength. And we would also hope that you've been having conversations about your own income strategy and how you're going to cover those general annual costs yourselves, whether that's through a mixture of grant funding or contributions from your community or crowdfunding, or however you're choosing for that strategy. So we would expect as you go forward that you're building other income streams for those common annual costs. So keep thinking about this grant fund is what else can I do to strengthen the organisation? Do we need more skills? Do we need to go on a recruitment drive for new volunteers? Do we need to give additional training to our volunteers? All of those things that are capacity building. I think that's sometimes the hardest thing to understand with this fund is what we can and can't fund and what is capacity building. So that's the type of thing, if you're not absolutely sure, ask your capacity building officer, or by all means ask me direct. That's absolutely fine. I think that's everything I wanted to cover. It's probably the most useful thing to do is just see if anyone's got any questions, because if you're not clear on something, somebody else is probably thinking the same thing. So just ask away.
Hi, Ellie, it's June here.
Hiya.
I wanted to say how helpful the governance recommendations were, because a couple of those things were things that we hadn't thought of. So that was very helpful. And actually now we've been able to put that together and implement. So I just wanted to say that was very helpful. Yeah.
That's very kind. Thank you. Yeah, we're all working towards the same end, which is that we all want you to be strong, vibrant community groups in 10, 20 years time. So yeah, feel that advice is advice given with kindness, not with, criticism. Somebody's got a hand up, and who Why can't I see any names on my screens? Maya, you might need to help me with who's got their hand up.
Absolutely, no problem. So the first hand up here is from Bea from Beautiful World Festival.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ellie, sorry. I have a question. Can we, sorry, because someone else is listening at the same time. I don't know if you can hear me well. So my question is, can any of these funds be used as capital costs for events? So, for example, to buy banners, to buy gazebos. Can we use, for example, if we would like to? You might remember what I do. So it's an event where different cultures are showcased, and I wonder if we can, for example, from these funds buy decorations, but the decorations that will be representing different countries. So something that is traditionally Polish, traditionally Chinese, traditionally Thai.
Yes, good question. Thanks, Bea. I think, again, it's going back to thinking about, is this going to support your organisation in the long term? Is it going to improve your organisation in the long term? So if it's something you're going to use for one event, it's probably a no. But we have actually supported a couple of groups with gazebos and sort of pull up banners, those banners, because actually, if you're saying that, we need to increase our kind of public awareness, and we want to go to lots of it, we want to go to some networking events, we want to run our own events, we want to make sure we got our banner at the local library once a week. I don't know, but so if you're going to use it at multiple events for a long-term period of time, and that's going to support other aspects of the organization, then that would become a yes. So it's about the use of that capital item, and whether it's about your organization as a whole or whether it's just supporting one event. That's the thing to think about there.
Okay, thank you so much.
Is that Louise with her hand up, I think?
Hi, yeah, I just popped it in the chat, but I know the chat's going pretty quick at the moment. I'm just wondering, I know we talked last time about whether you were allowed to do fundraising to get paid time to fundraise and put together a fundraising strategy. Is that still eligible for funding?
I would say yes. So if you feel that within your team you don't have anybody that's really good at bid writing, increasing somebody's skills within your team is going to help you in the longer term. So I would say yes, but I think what I'm learning from the panel is that rather than just buying in a consultant to write 5 bids for you, which may or may not succeed, it would be better if you can buy in a consultant to give somebody in your organization a really good level of training. And that might be sitting alongside them whilst you write 5 bids together, and it might be offering, more kind of formal training or whatever it might be. But I think the thing to try and do is don't just buy something in that then disappears when that consultant has finished their hours. Just try and make sure it's actually building your own skills. And actually, just as a piece of general advice, obviously some, larger local charities do have paid fundraisers, and I can quite often spot a bid that's been written by a paid fundraiser. And actually what you need is somebody that is hugely passionate about your organization, who knows your services, who knows the difference that they make in a really direct way. And then you can give them the skills to write a better funding bid. But what you can't replace is that person that has a lived experience of your organization. So personally speaking, rather than paying for a bid writer anyway, I would say to any group outside this EDC family, actually you're better off finding someone who just loves your organisation and has some time to give, and then give them the skills to become a better bid writer.
Thanks, Ellie.
Oh, Maya, you've got your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I've got two questions. One is from me and one is from someone in the chat. So I will first address the one on the chat. It's from Ade, and he says that he would prefer a video presentation to you, Ellie, or I'm assuming it's maybe like an interview or a video interview. And how do we book it? He's asking. Are you happy for people to contact you directly about this?
Is that for an application or for a reporting back? Do you know?
I am not sure. He hasn't clarified that in the chat. Ade, if you both
Both says, yeah. So we've got the option on both of doing it as a video. So you don't need to book that anyway. So it's not an option many groups have taken up, but we discussed it when we first had that get together about the funding program. And essentially what we're saying is, if you want to apply on a video, so if you want to, instead of writing everything down, the answers to all the questions, how are you going to use the grant? How is it going to support your organisation? You could verbalize that on a video in some way. You could maybe bring in other people from your organisation to talk about different aspects and different questions, and simply kind of do a video and then send me a video rather than sending me a written form. I say not many groups have done it that way, but it's absolutely up to you. And the same with the monitoring. So we've got this set of questions, information we want to know. How did you spend the grant? How has it improved your organisation? Has it improved your organisation? And again, if you're not a fan of writing, you can simply verbalise all those answers and send it on a video. And the thing you would have to book with me is what we call a funding conversation. So actually, rather than having to prepare something and be filmed, which some people probably don't like, then we can simply have a conversation that I then record, and I send the panel a summary of that conversation. Again, it's an alternative to having to write a form, because some people find that a barrier. I guess what I would say is that for those of you that see yourselves applying to formal grant funders, and indeed some of you have already applied to some of our other funding programs that we run at DCF, which has been great, and we've had some successes, which has been even better. I think if you see yourself as using grant funding as one of your income streams, it might be good practice at this point. If you didn't do a written application last time, I guess I would almost encourage you to do that this time, because the vast majority of funders, that's how you apply. And hopefully with us at DCF, you might get some constructive feedback on how you've made that application, which you don't always get from funders. So yeah, in some ways, I would say do a written application this time and see how that feels, because it might be good practice for future funding bids.
Thank you. Thanks, Ellie. That was Ade's question. I also have, it's not really a question, it's just a kind reminder, because I know you were talking to Louise about her question and about training and or working with a person to deliver some training for the organization. And this is basically a kind reminder to all of us that we've got the EDC experts directory that it's live now, and hopefully everybody received it, but we'll send a newsletter around anyway. And Tam and Katia can share the directory with their groups directly, because there are very good experts on that EDC expert directory that might come, to the groups and offer advice. And groups can, of course, apply to the DCF grants to pay for the time of the EDC experts. So yeah, I just thought, it's a good question to address the EDC experts and to remind everybody that they are there to support.
Yeah, thanks, Tama. That's a really good point. I think it goes back to what do you feel like you need to make your organisation better? You might think, gosh, we'd love to do some community fundraising events, but we don't have anyone on our team that's really confident in how you run an event. And that I'm sure there are people on your EDC expert group that are really good at running events, and they might just, do your first one with you, or spend a day with you doing some training with you. So yeah, I think it just comes back to what do you need, what are the gaps that you have in your skills or your resources, and how can you fill that? Any other questions? No question is a silly question. This is a safe place and all those things. I mean, if people are more comfortable asking me questions outside of this call, obviously that's an option as well. You've all got, in fact, it's a good opportunity to tell you my number has changed. It's on my email signature and all of the website pages now have my new number on. But actually, that's just reminded me, Mayu and Tamara and Katia, I'm going to have to send you yet another updated EDC project fund guidance because my number has changed. I finally giving up on my very old Tesco mobile and moving to a Teams number. So I'll do that straight after this call.
Yeah, that'd be great because there was another question up in the chat as well to receive the guidance once again, because some people might have lost it or some people are new to the program. So it'll be great to have the guidance updated, and then
Yes.
Katia and Tama can circulate it around the groups again.
Yeah, I'll do it straight after this meeting. I'm just going to put my new number into the chat box. My current, the mobile number I've had forever is still live. I'm not going to just cancel it just like that. So I'm still taking calls on that mobile number, but I'm doing a slow transition to this new number. So if you can, remember to ring me on that one. Tama, Katia, is there anything that strikes you that you think I haven't covered or isn't clear, or anything you need to say? No, all good.
Hello, can I ask something?
Please.
Yeah, I just want to find out whether is there anything that we need to do for the next as community groups to do for the next round of application for the EDC grants to the next phase? Is there anything particularly you want from us to be able to make it easier for the EDC grants to be given to the EDC community, or how do we help facilitate that as a community?
Do you mean helping other groups with their applications?
No.
You know,
the EDC grant is coming to an end this year. The next phase, how do community groups help you in achieving that, or it's got nothing to do with us?
Oh, I see. So you mean the application that we're hoping to get this extended 3 years? Yeah, the best thing you can all do at the moment is make sure that you respond to that email from Mayu with and give us all your feedback, because we don't want to do anything. We don't want to put in an application for another 3 years if that's not what the community wants. You know, we really need to understand what you feel is needed and what you think the next 3 years can look like. You've all now experienced what the current project has felt like and how it's supported you. But the next 3 years could look entirely different. You know, it doesn't have to be a replication. There could be small tweaks. There could be, you know, really considerably different things in the next 3 years, but it's got to be relevant to the community and what you feel you need as community groups and how we can best help you. So that's the best thing you can do, is just be really honest and tell us what you think has been really helpful, what you'd like more of, what you'd like less of. As I say, you know, both in terms of what can have been doing with you and the funding programme itself. So that's the best thing you can do. And then the job of the board will be to collate all that information, see where the common ground is, and then try and put in a bid that reflects what the community actually needs. I think that's about right, isn't it, Mayu?
Thank you.
I feel like we can give you some of your day back. So I think we were due to finish at 1, but if no one's got any burning questions. That's great. Should we give them some time back, Mayu?
Sorry, Ellie. can I quickly ask a question?
Yes, please.
This is on behalf of one group that I'm supporting. So basically, this group is belongs to kind of a national charity, but they have like their own activities in Beaumont, in BCP area. So do you think they would be able to apply?
Not usually. So I guess that's one thing I haven't done in this call, because I'm starting to take it for granted that everybody knows the eligibility. So obviously they have to be led by a majority of people from ethnically diverse backgrounds, and they do need to be a local group. So we don't fund national charities even if they have activity locally. So, you know, Red Cross, NSPCC, there's lots of Salvation Army, there's lots of national charities that have activities in Dorset, but as a rule we don't support national charities. So unless they were interested in sort of becoming an independent group, then unfortunately they wouldn't be eligible. The thing that's sometimes difficult to understand is where you have national kind of networks of groups. So something like Citizens Advice, for example, a lot of people see Citizens Advice as a national network, which it is, but each Citizens Advice office is independent. They're a separate charity. So that's the thing to look at. So if they've got their own charity number just for the kind of Dorset branch and they're completely independent, then that would be fine. But if their charity number is just one national charity number, which is, you know, like a Red Cross or a Salvation Army, then we wouldn't usually be able to fund them.
Okay, thank you.
It's a really difficult conversation. I have that conversation quite regularly, actually, but it comes back to success rates. You know, Katia, as I say, if every national charity that had a local presence in Dorset was also applying to all of our funding programs, it would just be, the success rates would just be even worse than they are now. So we try and pride ourselves on being the local funder. So it is about locally formed groups.
Sure. Thank you, Ellie.
Ellie, I just wanted to say thank you for explaining everything so clearly and for being so supportive.
Absolute pleasure. I'm really enjoying this project. It's been a real success for us because actually there are lots of ethnically diverse led groups that we didn't know that actually were already established that have been working with Tama and Katia. And as I say, some of those groups not only have had an EDC project grant, they've now had a grant from one of our other funding programs. And obviously lots of new groups have come into being, you know, alongside the project. So and that's what it was about for us as a funder, was actually making sure that we were awarding more grants to ethnically led community groups, because otherwise we're not impacting all sections of our community, are we? So so that's, no, it's been really, really positive for us. But as I say, it's very nice to hear positive things, but those of you that might have any criticisms or suggestions, we want to hear those as well.
And I should have said thank you to my lovely I can't think what, to Tama anyway, all her support. That goes without saying, Tama, doesn't it?
This is where Tama gets terribly embarrassed because somebody's giving her a compliment. Brilliant.
Thank you, Ellie, for the refreshing our mindsets on the whole funding thing and the whole pipeline. Really appreciate the information. It's been useful. There are some things lingering in my mind, but when I consolidate the thoughts, I'll try and reach out at the right time and through the right channel. Thank you.
Yeah, please do. No problem at all. Lovely. Right, I'll give you back 15 minutes back of your day. I'm going to go and get some lunch and yeah, hopefully see some of you soon.
Thank you, Ellie, and thank you, everybody.
Everyone.
See you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.